Just a couple of seconds late, but we are here. It is coffee talk time, and I'm taking a break from doing some TV, letting Kellyanne do the TV stuff while we sit here and chat. And boy, it's going to be an interesting couple of days, my friends. We are not used to tracking hurricanes impacting our western areas the heaviest, but that's where we're at. Of course, we're talking about Idalia, which is expected to make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane, major hurricane on the Big Bend. This is going to be a jam-packed coffee talk. So let's just do the thing, all right? 8 a.m. intermediate advisory is in. Winds are still at 65 miles an hour. Pressure is at 989 millibars. But I would also caution you because that was taken before hurricane hunters even made it into the center of the storm. That's a live look at the data from the hurricane hunters. And the center of the storm is actually further kind of south. What they're looking for, I would imagine, is kind of mesovortices, but the center of circulation should be somewhere kind of right in here. So they're looking around. They found 66 mile per hour winds. As a matter of fact, if we tap into their live data just a little bit deeper, we can get the SFMR data off of that recon aircraft and really look. And you see, they did find winds right up to hurricane strength. So it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with an upgrade at some point. But I think that they're just kind of trying to survey around and look at all the data that they can, certainly. But that right there, right off the bat, that lets you know that we're at the very least kind of on the cusp of this becoming a hurricane. Okay, so that said, what of course does that mean? Well, we know that the forecast from the National Hurricane Center does bring this thing toward Florida as a Category 3 hurricane with winds of 115 miles an hour on Wednesday. But there's a very, very important asterisk. You see that cone? Let's talk about the cone of confidence. Okay, there's an equal chance anywhere in that cone of the center of circulation moving. Could be on the left side, heading up closer, much closer to Tallahassee, which would be way far away from us in Central Florida. It could also be on that right side, which basically would have a landfalling major hurricane in Pinellas County, which would be terrible. It's been years since anything like that has happened. That would pile up the storm surge in Tampa Bay, but that would also bring a hurricane in to Marion County. And this got me thinking, okay, it's been a long time since we've seen that kind of a thing. Okay, now before we get into some historical stuff, because you know I'm a history nerd, let's look at the advisories. Okay, hurricane watch is posted for the west coast of Florida and in our area, Sumter County and central western Marion counties. For the metro area of Orlando, so Seminole, Orange, Lake, Osceola, Polk counties, tropical storm watches. Okay, so find where you live and identify the color. Yellow is tropical storm, pink is hurricane. Now, watch versus warning. In the tropical context, what does it mean? It's a little different than severe weather like tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. So a watch means we need to start working on those action plans. Those conditions are possible within the next 48 hours time. A warning means we need to be completing those preps. And frankly, that will be needed this afternoon in some cases. So work those plans. So again, and I'll pop up this screen. What does that mean, right? Like that's what you're going to be asking. What does that mean? I'm going to pop this screen up again. In pink, Marion and Sumter counties, Alachua County and off to the west. For you, we're talking, of course, about hurricane conditions. So when we talk about hurricane conditions, you need to know, particularly in this case, power outages are going to be a pretty big concern for us, okay? Because these are not areas that get hurricane hits very often. Like I think about horse country in Marion County, there's a bunch of weak, beautiful trees, and this is going to bring some of that down. So certainly we need to be preparing for this. If you live on the East Coast, this is one that's not going to be as big of an impactor for you. But that said, everybody out west who's normally not a big impact is under that threat today, okay? So there's that, okay? How does this all play out? How are the impacts playing out? I got you, okay? And the Hurricane Center certainly is taking this seriously. They're in the storm on a high altitude jet. They're on the way to the core in the low level Air Force C-130, and the tail Doppler radar aircraft should be getting in there shortly as well. So there's the Hurricane Center is taking this seriously. Okay, when we talk about the wind threats, and this is going to be something that will ebb and flow. Let's just take a look. Okay, in terms of wind threats, as of the current forecast thinking, major hurricane winds along the Gulf Coast, highlighted in kind of purple there, right? That does include, at least at the moment, that does include my brother over in Pinellas County. Okay, that does include Pinellas County. Now, once we fine tune this forecast, we can dial it down. But a hurricane is a marathon, not a sprint. So we need to be preparing, and then we could always dial it back if it's not going to play out that way. But if it is, it's harder to play catch up. Okay, so that's the purple area, the major hurricane concerns right through the Big Bend. Then we look, of course, to the hurricane force winds, which would be highlighted in red. That's going to be Marion County. That's going to be parts of Sumter County. It's been a long time since you've gotten those kinds of winds. For the I-4 Metro, up to the north, you're talking about strong tropical storm force winds. And yes, we can get those in an afternoon thunderstorm, but they also are destructive in afternoon thunderstorms. So again, we need to prepare for that. And then the further east and southeast you go, just tropical storm force wind gusts, that sort of thing. But Orlando Metro could see, and again, that's based on kind of splitting the difference and going right down the center of the cone from the National Hurricane Center. But the reality is, again, you've got two scenarios. If it goes right down the middle, that's what we're looking at. If it takes a more westerly track, we dial down the impact. If it takes a more easterly track, we're going to have to dial up the impacts. And that's probably the very last thing you want to deal with. You don't want higher impacts, but it's at least within the realm of possibility. So let's do this, okay? Let's take a look at our futurecast model and get an idea of wind speeds and timing and all of those things, okay? We'll start with today. It's going to be a nice day, pretty normal stuff. A couple of afternoon showers and storms kind of bubbling up through the metro, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, some gusty downpours, that sort of thing, okay? That's today. We look at tomorrow morning, a nice breeze, clouds around. Look at lunchtime tomorrow, already picking up a bit of a southeasterly breeze. Then look what happens tomorrow afternoon. And I remember seeing something so similar to this with Ian and with Charlie and with all these different hurricanes that have moved through the area. You get an early feeder band and it kind of just wakes everybody up and everyone's like, oh, that's something. There you go. Around dinner time tomorrow, Futurecast is saying we're going to get a nice gusty feeder band moving through, and that'll get everybody's attention. Then tomorrow night, notice the breeze picking up 20 miles an hour with no rains around, right? Tightening pressure gradient, starting to see some more feeder band action working in, some gustier winds, right? Now we're at 30, 40 miles per hour, right? Then notice what happens. That's 4 a.m. Wednesday. Notice Futurecast putting the core of that hurricane in the Big Bend, right? And bringing it ashore. And I want you to notice a couple of things here. There's a couple of points that I really want to make. Watch how Futurecast keeps the core outside of Marion County, but still puts nearly hurricane force winds into Marion County. Can't discount that, okay? So watch this through time. That's 4 a.m. Wednesday morning, 5 a.m., 5:30, 6:30, okay, 7 a.m. You're talking about big winds, particularly out in western Marion County. That's 7:30, 8 o'clock, right? You're getting to hurricane force wind gusts around. And then as that moves out, there you go, 71 mile per, and that's the core of the storm just outside of Marion County. If the core of the storm is inside Marion County, obviously it's a different ballgame, but you can see clearly big gusts the closer you are to the center of circulation. Now, for those of you asking questions, I am going to get to some questions here in a couple seconds. I'm just kind of doing a little dissertation thing here, and then we'll get to a more interactive version, of course, which is what I love to do with Coffee Talk. 10 a.m., winds still very gusty, still potentially damaging. There's 11 a.m., the wind's starting to come down, and then through the afternoon, still gusty, but the hurricane itself will be moving out. Now, before I take your questions, I just want to pose one thing to you. How long it's been since Marion County has seen a situation kind of similar to this? So I asked myself this morning, okay, when was the last time like a hurricane moved through Marion County? And I found that Irma in 2017 was a hurricane, but weakened to a tropical storm right as it was moving through Marion County. And the biggest wind gusts I found from Irma were in the like 30, 40, 50 mile per hour range. So scratch that one. Would you believe me if I, now, if you're an old timer in Marion, you'll know this, but would you believe me if I told you that the last time we had a hurricane move through Marion County was 1968, Hurricane Gladys. Wow. It was a Category 2 off the shoreline and then moved ashore as a Category 1 hurricane, moving right through Marion County. And I'm not saying that this is going to be an identical situation, but it's at the very least an interesting analog, if nothing else. So, you know, when we talk about these advisories and when we talk about like our prep timeline, which is a real important kind of discussion point for me when we talk about that. Like today, if you live in those hurricane watch areas, Sumter County, Marion County, you need to be topping off your hurricane kit. And then tomorrow morning, finish that prep work because by tomorrow afternoon into Wednesday morning, the storm arrives. This is not something that Marion County has seen in a long time. And I mean, I've been doing weather in Central Florida for 22 years, you know, on and off, of course. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? I think it's kind of interesting that it's been that long. And I say it's interesting only because the psychological elements, like the people that live in Marion County, I'm concerned are like, well, it never comes here. It never does anything. And it's like, it can, and it might. So that's where we're at in terms of the storm system. So with that, let's open up the floor. I'll tell you, there are more than 3,000 people watching this morning, which means I'm not forgetting Ida. I went to the historic database. I'm not forgetting Ian. I went to the historic database. So with more than 3,000 of you in there, I'll tell you, I'm going to do my best to answer questions, but I'm not going to get all of them. And all I ask is for you not to be rude to each other because we're going to all do the best we can. Okay? All right. After Ian, I prepare anyways, Brittany says. It changed direction so many times, like a 5-year-old at Disney that had some candy from a store. Very true. Very true indeed. It's very true. Ethan is asking, could the eye still come through Orlando? Yeah. When we look at the forecast from the Hurricane Center, okay, this is the forecast, you know, that's where the cone is. If the center of circulation goes just outside, good morning. Oh, that looks delicious. That center of circulation, if it were to jog just outside of the cone, then that's a possibility. Right now, though, you know, the more likely scenario is that we've got this storm system kind of working through our western and northern areas, Marion County, Sumter County, Alachua, Putnam, St. Johns, and Flagler counties, like those areas. That's kind of what we're thinking. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Disney impacts. I mean, I would say they're probably going to watch this very, very closely because it's frankly, it's still just a little too early to get into specificity, like will they have to close or that sort of a thing. All right. Why do the worst hurricanes always feel like they hit between 2 to 6 a.m. time frame? I feel like they never hit at 2 in the afternoon. I agree. And what's interesting is like the 2 to 6 a.m. time frame is when Kellyanne and I are on the air. So it's always on our watch. Yeah. All right. Even if it's a Levy County, like Southeast Levy County landfall, Crystal River will have extensive damage. Agreed. That's a big concern. And that's not even taking into account how swampy the landscape is there. Okay. And I'm not like picking on you, obviously, but like how swampy that landscape is. And when you talk about a swampy landscape, you talk about storm surge. So look at these threats across the area, okay? When we talk about storm surge, you're talking at 9-foot storm surge over in the Big Bend area. right? I mean, that's significant. For like Tampa Bay, we could be talking about a 6-foot rise in water, and that's on top of the already heightened tide cycles. So, there's definitely that concern. And then, cannot forget, this will put us in the right front quadrant of the storm, which means that there are also several tornadoes that are possible there. So there's definitely that. There's definitely that. To track. There's a lot, it's going to be a multifaceted event. I want to check in, by the way, and I do this anytime that the hurricane hunters are up while we're doing coffee talk. I want to check on the latest recon mission and see where the winds are off of the hurricane hunters. All right, so they've been finding, again, on the north side of the storm, they've been finding winds right up to hurricane force. And it'll be, they're swirling around. I'm just checking to make sure I haven't missed anything from the Hurricane Center. Okay. All right. So nothing updated yet. I would imagine that at the very least they're going to go ahead and at some point during this mission we're going to get up to 70-mile-per-hour winds. But that's right up to hurricane force there at about like 7:25 or so in the morning. So yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. All right, so the headlines for us, it's strengthening. The impacts are going to be highest north and west of the Orlando metro area. All right? All right. Let's see here. Julian says this is giving me Charlie and Ian flashbacks. Sure, I get that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's giving all of us flashbacks of just having to deal with storms. And it's kind of surreal. To me, at least, it's very surreal that it's just more stuff that we have to deal with. I apologize, y'all, that these questions are flying by. So I'm doing the best I can to kind of get through it. All right, so what are we looking at in terms of the raw model data? Okay, so let's switch over, and I'm going to use non-pretty graphics here. Cities, give me a few seconds here, and I'm just going to look at model run by model run. This is the GFS wind gust swath. All right. So this is the GFS model, wind gust swath. All right. And what you're looking at here is kind of what the highest winds will look like. The GFS is a further west model. So you're talking about, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. The European, however, is a bit more east, putting the destructive winds still out of our area. The Canadian model, really kind of higher winds around central Florida. So it's really, and that is, I think, the point to drive home, is it's really just dependent on exactly where in the cone this storm system makes landfall. So with everybody that's going to be asking, what does this mean for insert city name here? What does this mean for insert city name here? It's just a little too early to tell. There are 3 simultaneous Hurricane Hunter recon missions, 1 in the upper level, 2 in the surface, and they're all trying to get data that we can plug into the models and that we can sample things out, because believe me, I want to be able to give you all the information. I will tell you, we do have county by county forecast graphics. And they're available on wesh.com. I'll go through them now, and then we'll get back to some of your questions, okay? So county by county, let's do Sumter County first, okay? For Sumter County, for you, based on the current guidance, worst of the weather starts at 3 a.m. Wednesday and goes through the afternoon, gusts 60 to 70. I do think that there's going to be a tornado threat for you. Based on the latest information we have, Marion County, I think you're going to be gusting 80, 85, 90, 95 miles an hour. Definitely a tornado threat with winds kind of sustained in these bands running 65. So strong tropical storm force. Lake County, my friends, okay? I'm talking about every Central Florida county, okay? So if you're about to ask your city, ask your county, stand by. Here we go. Lake County, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, gusts higher than that. Could see some localized flooding, definitely a tornado threat there. Seminole County, okay? You're a little further out, tropical storm watch posted for you, okay? 5 a.m. Wednesday to 3 p.m. Wednesday, max gusts 55 to 60 miles an hour. The Orlando metro area, Orange County, including Bithlo, including Apopka, Walt Disney World, 55 to 60 mile per hour gusts. I do think that there's going to be a tornado threat for you. Osceola County being a little further south, I think the winds and impacts are going to be a little less, 50 to 55 mile per hour wind gusts, 2 to 4 inches of rain. Then over to the coastal communities, Flagler County, because you're further north, higher winds, right? 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. I would suspect that you'll be placed under a watch a little later on today. For Volusia County, so beat up from the hurricanes last year, at least in this case, it looks like we're going to be talking about offshore winds. So not a massive storm surge piling up, which is fantastic news. Winds 40 to 50 miles per hour and gusts running 50 to 60 miles per hour. Some gusts, certainly. It's just not going to be quite as bad. Brevard County, my friends to the south, again, offshore winds. That's going to really help us out in terms of the storm surge, but could see some gusty downpours in there. And again, here's the graphic to kind of illustrate the point. That's what we're looking at around Central Florida. Everybody's wanting to know things like the airports. They're going to shut it down if it looks like we're going to get significant winds. So I would love to be able to give you more specificity, but until we dial this forecast down, it's just not going to be there. Okay. All right. All right. I see people asking about mobile homes. Deborah is asking, what about Holapaw? We live in a mobile home. All right. So there's the wind threat. That's the product. So find where you live and find the color code. In terms of mobile homes, I will always say this. If there's a situation where you do not feel safe in your home, find somewhere to go. You just do not want to put yourself in harm's way, period. There's no reason for it, okay? All right. So many people are asking about specific cities, and I'm doing the best I can for you, y'all. I just showed all of our county forecasts, okay? Florida Man 2.0, and it won't be like Hermine or Michael here. It's going to be something we've never seen. That's, I think, the most interesting element of it, right? Because Marion County, I mean, I've covered hurricanes here for a long time. The last and I'm not saying that the hurricane's core is going into Marion County, but that's within the cone of possibility. The last hurricane to directly move over Marion County was Gladys in '68. So for so many people, particularly if this hangs on the right side of that forecast path, this is going to be something that most people have never seen before. And that's a significant element to be discussed. Okay. Mike's asking, the H Wharf is showing a 933 before landfall. Do you think that's overdone? You know, intensity forecasting is the most difficult of all. And so because of that, we don't have any certainty. The big thing on intensity is how quickly does it organize today, right? If it rapidly intensifies today, then we know that's a game on. If it takes a little while to intensify, then there's that, you know. All right, let me roll down here. Michael's asking Cat 4. I mean, Cat 4 is possible. It's a possibility. All of this is possible. So, if there's one message that I have, if there's one thing you take away from this dissertation, it's this. If you're under those pink colors, a hurricane watch, you need to be getting your hurricane supplies together. If you're in those gold areas, the tropical storm watch, just know it could get gusty and kind of a little nasty by you. But really, pink areas, you need to be getting ready for a hurricane, okay? Any other questions, comments, concerns? I'm going to walk into the studio because I'm going to start doing some TV here in a couple of minutes. Any chance you could do a Pasco County forecast, Eric? So we don't cover Pasco, but I would say that for you, you're going to be pretty close to impact from our friends in Sumter County. So expect, hurricane conditions. While we're walking, I do want to check in and see what's doing on the recon. I'm on live, Chelsea, just so you know. Check in with Chelsea, our digital media manager. What's going on, Chelsea?
I'm just looking for the maps and models.
The maps and what do you mean? Which ones?
The one from last year that we had, like the maps and models with the graphics that auto update.
The maps and models.
I can show you.
Oh,
what
it's on links too. Is that what you're talking? Like in the box, in the
yeah.
inset box?
Normally what I do is I like clone it from last year,
Oh, those.
but
Okay,
it's Franklin.
gotcha. Okay, okay, because that's looking at B. Go look for A. In
Okay.
the map room, it's like this is the A storm, so maybe
Okay.
Ian was the B storm.
Okay.
Yeah, go look for. If you can't find those, shoot me a message.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. You needed me. Can I put you on Coffee Talk?
You can put me on Coffee Talk. It's going to be a lot of technical
This
9
is
a.m.
this is Emily. We're talking because I got to. Yes.
It's going to be a lot of technical 9
Yep.
a.m. talk. We have a DeSantis presser.
Okay.
So TBD on when that will fall.
Right.
But the plan right now
Yeah.
is to, as normal, you have the top weather, you have your main weather. But if DeSantis is on time, we will take him right
Yep.
at the top of the 9 and then either do a main weather afterward or
Okay.
commercial break that main weather.
Perfect.
So
Works
there
for
you
me.
go.
Thank you.
The E-Block, I also have them asking you a question about your hurricane forecast.
Yep.
Is this falling in line with that?
Which it is.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's go do some more TV together. All right. So Recon, by the way, while we were chatting, looks like they're still flying around. Have not found anything more significant. All right. Kellyanne's on TV right now. Poor Kellyanne's voice is not treating her well. Poor thing. All right. As I'm walking around talking to the other folks, by the way, I have not taken your questions, and I do apologize. I'm going to start doing TV, but I'm not going to leave you guys, okay? I'm not done answering questions. I just need to get my TV stuff set back up here. She's on a Today Show, so I need to get over here. Top D. Let me just get my TV stuff taken care of, okay? You okay? How's your voice? We're still live.
It's here.
Yeah. All right, I'm taking over at 8:30.
I can do the first other from YouTube, and I think they have you doing it.
Okay, I can do it. I'm just gonna take my laptop with me. Yeah, oh God, yeah. Yeah, your voice is dead. We need you tomorrow and Wednesday. Yeah, you're done. I just benched Kellyanne. Is that good? Everybody say hi to Kellyanne, by the way. Let's talk about a trooper. No voice, on antibiotics, drinking tea and honey and all the things. Ooh, 984?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's intensifying.
Yes.
Okay, so 984 millibars, the Recon just found. Here, I'll
Oh, was someone trying to?
I'll pull this up.
No, Eric.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the TV.
Eric said he's gonna do TV.
Yeah, Kellyanne needs to not talk. If I said that to my wife, I'd get punched. Yes, it's going to be me. All right, we're gonna go do this TV hit, and I apologize, I'm being rude to y'all. Yep, turning my mic on. Oh, good. We're still live. All right, so I'm gonna do this TV. How I can talk to, listen, coffee does not talk back. It's the best. All right. So I was just reloading this, I think. Yeah, okay. All right, so this is what I was just trying to show y'all, is that red dot at the center, 984 millibars. So that's showing that the storm system is getting stronger, okay? So that's recon data. So does that mean that we're to hurricane level? It's possible. It's definitely possible, okay? And I see so many comments. I'm going to just kind of read through here. All right, lots and lots of comments. Let's see here. Do your thing. Coffee does not talk back. Yeah. Melissa, you're not being rude. You're multitasking. I'm trying. Brittany's asking, isn't that a Cat 1? It's. I'm just looking at the winds, 64 mile per hour, 66 mile per hour. So I'll have to build that graph file to show the winds. But that 984 is a lower pressure. So yeah, I mean, it does show that we are at the very least on the cusp. Hey, I'm starting with watches and warnings, just so y'all know. So it's at the very least on the cusp. Does the Hurricane Center wait until 11 o'clock to update it? That'll be interesting to see for sure. All right. Should we expect MCO to close on Wednesday? they don't have to make that decision yet, and so I would just say it's a possibility, but not positive. Yeah. Mickey says pressure drops first and then the winds catch up. Exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. All right, I'm going to go do TV. Stand by, and we will finish this up here in just a couple minutes. Let me just do a little TV hit, and I apologize that I'm not 100% engaged. You will be mine right after this TV hit, so stand by.
Right now on Sunrise, we are tracking the tropics. First morning meteorologist Eric Burris is tracking the latest path of a tropical storm Idalia.
Is it 985? Is that what it was? 985? 984. Okay, 984.
A state of emergency has been issued in more than 30 counties here in Florida. We'll tell you how central Florida is getting ready.
There is a lot to talk about this morning to get your work week started. It's sure to be here. Thanks for joining us here on Solomon Monday.
And I'm Sheldon Butez. Let's get right to first morning meteorologist Eric Burris. Eric, we got an update at the top of the hour. What's going on with these advisories right now?
Yeah, so unchanged since 5 a.m., meaning that our western areas are under hurricane watches and the metro area under tropical storm watches. What this means is that hurricane conditions are possible out west, tropical storm conditions are possible through the metro over the next 48 hours time. And I would suspect that we'll start to see warnings issued by about 5 p.m. today, okay? Now that's if not 11 o'clock, honestly. That said, if you live in these pink highlighted areas, you need to be taking today and tomorrow morning to prepare for a hurricane, because that means conditions are possible by you. So when we say that, that means make sure you have non-perishable foods, which you should already have. It means that you should be able to secure any loose things around your home. Just do what you need to do to be able to lock down for a day or two, and then we can go on with our lives, right? Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Winds at 65, pressure at 989. But I'll tell you, there are simultaneous missions flying inside of this storm system, and just within a few minutes' time, we are really watching new convection bubble. They found 984 millibars, okay, right in here. So based on recon flights off of the NOAA flight, I would say that we are at the very least knocking on the doorstep of a hurricane upgrade. The pressure dropped from 989 to 984, which means the winds will be coming on up. And that is expected over the course of the day today. We do anticipate this becomes a hurricane today. And then by Wednesday morning, it will be approaching Florida's west coast, anywhere from near Tallahassee to near Tampa Bay. The further on the right side of this cone, it would hug the bigger impacts for us in Central Florida. And nobody knows at this point yet where it's going to go. Hurricanes, they don't go straight into a cone. It kind of wobbles around a little bit. So we really do have to watch this. And today's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to do any of those preparations that we need, all right? In terms of our local forecast, it's up to about 94 degrees and a 40 to 50% coverage of afternoon and even evening thunderstorms. But tomorrow afternoon and evening, things start to get a little rough. So today into tomorrow morning, that's when we need to be taking and doing our storm preps. We'll talk more about a prep timeline. We'll look county by county and get into the threats individually when I see you in just a couple of minutes. Now at 8:34, let's get over to Megan and a look at the roads. Okay. I was hoping for a season without one this year. And he says, yeah, you and me both, bro. I'm not a huge fan, personally. I like tracking them. I don't love living through them. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. What are the steering factors? What will stop and steer it? Okay, Sonia, that's a really good question. So let's take a look. Give me a second and I'll pull up the graphic. Let's take a look at the steering, okay? Basically, what we're looking at, and it's the same kind of idea we saw with Ian and with Charlie. You've got a hurricane working into the Gulf of Mexico and a cold front that's just going to turn it to the right. And it's that exact timing that plays in. We don't know the exact timing, but when it happens, it's going to happen. And that's the difficult part in terms of this forecast. It's frustrating, and I get it. Let's see here. The insurance market is so weak right now. I hate we're getting another one so quick. I know. Kevin says, love the science, but hate the results. It's true. It's like love the player, hate the game, right? It's the tropics. Love the player, hate the game. Love the science, hate the results. I actually like that. Let's see here. Can you please tell me what Plant City could get from this? So at this point, for Plant City, we are going to be talking about hurricane conditions possible, and you don't want that. That's certainly not an ideal scenario. But look at the kind of graphic here to illustrate. For you, hurricane gusts are possible. More than likely, you're talking strong tropical storm force winds. But we're going to fine tune this product as we get closer and closer to landfall. There are still some decent questions on exactly where this makes landfall, and that's the difficult part of it. It really is. It really is. And I also love when people ask, like, but what do you really think? And I'm like, I've been on live with y'all for 35 minutes, and I'm not hiding anything. That's the thing. I promise I'm not hiding anything. So I'm sharing with you absolutely everything that I think. I think that at this point, what we're watching is, I'm checking in with the hurricane hunters again, but what we're watching is going to be exactly how does this play out in terms of hugging the left side or hugging the right side of the cone. That's it. That's the ball game. Does it go, because there are equal chances of it on the left side of the cone or the right side of the cone, and that's kind of where we're at. Does it go more to the left? Does it go more to the right? Does it go down the center? There's an equal chance of all of this, and that's the difficult part. All right. Could Orange and Osceola County see hurricane watches issued? Andrew, I would say if the model guidance starts to hint a little more to the right, that's a possibility. All right. Brian, typically how much would a storm weaken from landfall to, let's say, Ocala? Brian, but the problem is the last time we saw something anywhere close-ish to this was back in the 1960s. So, and that went from a Cat 2 to a Cat 1. Does that mean that this would, if it's a Cat 3, would it be a Cat 2? We have the potential to see the biggest hit in our western areas that we have seen in a generation. I mean, that's not hype. I'm not sitting here hyping it either. That's just kind of what we're looking at right now. So, it's interesting in the worst way. All right. If the forecast verifies and it goes up the middle of the cone, will South Brevard be minimal impact? Correct, Tom. Yeah, you would be a minimal impact, not a major concern, thankfully. Next update, Evie's asking, comes from the National Hurricane Center at 11 o'clock. And because there are hurricane hunters in there, they're going to be updating if they get, more information. 66, 64. So we've not gotten massive wind rises, but you can see there are 2 recon flights that are in the storm system right now. 984 millibars, 990 millibars, 64 mile per hour, 66 mile per hour. So they're scanning around, they're looking. So we're watching the live data as it comes through, and they're doing little patterns to look for, turning of the winds and the like. So they're scanning around, just doing what they can to make sure that we're aware. Should we board up windows in Newport Richey, Pasco County? Man, that's a tough one. I would say that at the very least, look at this graphic. If you're in an area that's showing up as having purple, then I would say it's not a bad idea to prepare for a major hurricane. And the reason that there's such a big chunk of real estate is because the forecast cone is fairly big at this point, right? Once the forecast cone thins as we get closer and closer to landfall, we're going to fine tune these impacts. But for right now, from Pinellas County all the way north through the Big Bend, we need to be preparing at least beachside for a major hurricane strike. Worst case, I mean, if you were to ask me the worst case scenario, it would be that it hugs that right side. Because if it hugs that right side, it would pile up storm surge into Tampa Bay, and that's just not what you want. That's not a good sign. So the easterly track would be, for us in Central Florida, the worst case scenario. All right. Please remind us that the hurricane does not go straight up the middle of the cone. Many people thought Ian wouldn't hit where it did. I mean, Lori, I feel like I've said it 18 times, but yeah. They don't, and that's why I have this graphic to illustrate that point. And if that isn't good enough, I have this graphic to illustrate that point. There's an equal chance. All the forecast cone is, and that's another thing that's kind of interesting. Did you know that the forecast cone is designed so that the mentality is 2/3 of the time the center of circulation stays inside? Still live.
Sorry.
What's up?
I need to figure out this graphic thing.
That thing?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
images.
as soon as I get off. Oh, did you not find it in A?
No, I found it, but then when I search for it, it doesn't show up. Like her underscore A.
Her underscore A underscore model statistic, path stats, satellite
When
path
I
stats.
search like her underscore A, I get like old graphics. I don't get the modern one, but it's showing up correctly in Map Room. So I don't understand.
That may be a Media OS thing then.
Okay.
Do you want to take a picture of that just so you know the files that are outputting?
Yeah.
Yeah, take a picture of that.
See if I can figure it out.
Or you want me to? Yeah.
Yeah, just take a look once you're done.
I mean, as long as it says the right name, then it's good.
Yeah.
That's weird. Chelsea runs wesh.com and is always fighting to make sure that we have the live latest data up there. So it's a good person to keep updated for sure. All right, let me work on building this next TV hit. That. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. Back to your questions. Man, we got 3,500 people in this morning. It's like hard to answer all there's no answering all the questions. Will it be a major? I'm panicked in Cape Coral. It will be a major, but I don't think it's coming to Cape Coral. You're not in the forecast cone of confidence, thankfully. And as a matter of fact, and I'll just mention this, the forecast pattern doesn't really look to favor that. The forecast that we put together back in March, this was kind of the area that we highlighted for the West Coast Florida storm system. So, this is the area that I've been knowing to watch this week for months. Just for situational awareness there. And that's all that I kind of use that for. We would, let's see here. What have we said? Never apologize for doing the job. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Are the wind hurricane hunters are measuring at surface level or are they higher up? So they're using different technology, the SFMR, they're using dropsondes, things like that. So it just depends on what you're looking at. But what I'm plotting is surface winds. Yeah. So they've not found anything higher, which is definitely good. All right. Yeah, which is definitely good. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Do you expect mandatory evacuations in Zone A north of Tampa? At this point, listen, we have to continue to follow this, and I know that all of the local emergency managers are doing that. I will tell you, I cover Central Florida, so I don't have an intimate knowledge of emergency managers in the Tampa area, so I can't just call somebody up or text somebody so I don't know, unfortunately. I wish that I could give you better information, but for Tampa, I would suggest, dialing into like WFLA, which is the NBC station over in Tampa. They'll get you taken care of. All right, let's see here. Let's see, maybe going west like Katrina. No, it's not going to be going west like Katrina. So, all right, it's 8:45. I've got to go hop on TV in a couple of minutes. 10 a.m. today, WJCL meteorologist Jeremy Nelson and I will be tracking the tropics together. So we'll be live again on our social channels at 10 a.m. All right. In the meantime, be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you so very much for hanging out, and we'll have more at 10 a.m.